As you can guess, on the east coast of Yorkshire, it gets a bit chilly.
All right.
And
Plus, it'd be a shock for you after all those years in warm London, full of those bodies keeping each other warm, that densely populated place.
actually, I mean, I've excuse me, I've adapted to it somewhat now. But the first kind of first winter up here, I just thought it made you realise how warm London is. It's just like fuck, you know. It's just like, you know, and obviously, you know, most of the time I've got a hat on.
Yeah, well, I get that.
So I take it you're still in Milton Keynes.
Yes, it'll be 40 years in April.
Bloody hell.
That's a month away. Yeah, a month away. And so I saw a couple of tweets recently that had like anniversary dates of comics, first issues of comics, and it was like Warrior 40 years. And I remember buying issue 1 just before I moved to Milton Keynes.
God. Anniversaries. They anything that I mean, anything that has kind of like a period of time, it blows my mind. The other day I realised that with making my stuff, it's been 20 years now, which compared to yourself, I'm a junior, you know. But, but even so, it's like 20 years. Where the fuck did that go?
So how's Hull for what you moved there? I take it to sort of enable you to focus on your work more easily than if you were central.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me.
Done in that.
I mean, the main reason is well, it's twofold. One is it was financial, and the second one was that my flatmate, who is from Hull, from Yorkshire, East Yorkshire, he wanted to be close to his parents because they're quite elderly now. So that it seemed right at the time, really. Just a very small thing. The flat that we were living in, we'd been there for like 10 years. And the landlord's relatives took over the flat, and it had gone from... We hadn't had the rent go up in 10 years, which for London obviously is very unusual. And he said, oh, well, we'll have to do it at the market rate now. And it was like, it'd gone from, I don't know, 1,100 to, he wanted to do like 1,900 or something. He's like, fuck that shit.
Fucking hell, I think 1,100 is shocking. Well, 1,900.
So it's just like, nah, I don't think so. So yeah, it was that really. And obviously...
But the finances mean that you don't have to worry about, you know,
it's an incredible difference. You forget. I mean, I lived in London for 35 years. So you kind of have a sliding scale of adaptation to sort of prices going up and just the general cost of living. And as soon as I moved out, I come up here, it's just like, I can't fucking believe it. I can get away with so little money in comparison and live a quality of life that's comparable to what I had in London. I mean, we're not eating roadkill and wearing cardboard boxes for shoes. So,
but if you had to, there'd be more use to it round there.
Absolutely, yeah. That's right. I'm going to get myself a shot for this.
Well, I said it.
Well, yeah, I know, but I was nodding in agreement. So yeah, it's that really, and it's gone so quick. It'll be 3 years in April since we moved up here. So it's again, I'm sure you're probably aware of the passage of time and that it's years compress into months. Sometimes it feels. So yeah.
Yeah, yes, I agree. We're similar ages, aren't we? So
yeah,
there's that to factor in where you're 50s. But wait a minute, I'm still not got used to being 30 yet. How did that happen?
Okay.
And then, so that comes by quickly, and then the pandemic sort of adds to it, doesn't it? Where you sort of, I found myself in a routine, having to be more. I have a routine anyway. I'm quite because you want to get up and do your comics, and then you not spend money. So there's to discipline, there's routine, isn't there? And then that's been heightened because of the pandemic, where you can't just pop to the shops quite so easily, or have you? So and then time passes differently, and before you know it, shit, it's been however long it is. I mean, I don't think I've seen you for years and years, and it doesn't seem that long at all.
No, exactly. I was trying to. I mean, this is the. I'm trying to interview everybody, obviously, that's taken part in this exhibition, and I'm very slow at this. So you're the fifth person to be doing this, and each time I'm thinking, well, when was the last time I actually saw you in a physical space? And I was trying to think with regards to you, and it may well have been one of the Crouch End things.
Yes, I think it was the last one.
Last one, yeah.
Yeah.
And
when was that? 2019.
What are we now? We're 22, aren't we? I would say it'd be 18, yeah. Oh my god. So yeah, about 5 years.
But that doesn't feel that long ago to me.
No, exactly.
That was a great show you used to do in Crouch
Oh,
End.
thank you. Yeah.
One of my favourites.
Yeah. But it was. I was talking to Gareth Brooks. Again, just talking about the old days, but in the sense of small events, and that the fact that I think eventually you come around to thinking they're the ones that you actually enjoy. I mean, both of us have done larger events, and they have their own merits, but really that more intimate, the fact that you can actually talk to people and the people coming round to look at your stuff, and that more personal thing, I think becomes a value after a while, doesn't it? It's very important.
Yes. I've been thinking about getting back into larger events, and I really am finding it hard to persuade myself to do them. And the last couple of years, I've got tables at Thought Bubble, for example, been successful, but then when they've said, oh, we'd like to offer you a table, and I've got back and gone, I don't think I can do it. I've lost that sort of mojo in big events. So I don't know what I think that thing I might have been expecting. I think I've realised everyone does these things for different reasons anyway. But that thing maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago I was expecting of being discovered maybe, or that's not going to happen. It doesn't happen, or it happens so rarely at these places. Whereas your event, I didn't go along thinking I'm going to be discovered. I went along going, oh, it'd be nice for myself some comics, make my table back. And all I needed was to sell one comic. So I mean, to do that. And I could drive there.
Yeah.
Park really quite close to the venue, usually out on someone else's drive.
Yeah. Try not to crash into their car.
And because it was free to the public, which I guess is a hangover from the Camden.
It was, yeah.
That you could, I forgot what you called it, sorry.
That's all right. London Underground Comics.
London Underground, yeah. That sort of outreach attitude that you had, and you got people in, which was brilliant. But yes, I mean, I'd like to. I'm not super. If I go back to do events, I feel that it has to be a different thing for me than what I've been doing for. I'm too old as well to kind of do. There's one event I got asked to do that would have meant me driving for 6 hours.
Oh.
In one day, which I might have done 10 years ago, but now, and I guess typically people pay for rooms and stay over, so they don't have to do that. But don't really have the, I don't want to do that.
No, well, it's. I mean, again, the last event I did was Thought Bubble last year, and that I only did that because I'd applied to it. I think it was pre-pandemic. And it kept being a rollover payment, and I thought, well, I better cash this one in. I can't. And for me, in fact, they're probably pretty much the last two events. I could actually get on the train, go to Harrogate, and come back, so I don't have to. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go this time, and I've covered this in other conversations. There's no shade on the organisation of Thought Bubble. They do a great job and stuff, but it's not me anymore. I just don't have that enthusiasm for it. That's the important thing. But if that's the case, I mean, I've retired again from these sort of things. I do it every time, don't I? But this.
Yeah, but we've both been there, I think. I felt exactly the same way. You're a bit more public about it than I am. I take you aside occasionally. I know that we've had a couple of conversations in the past where I've been near breakdown and I've said, I can't take it anymore. But it's all to do with my expectations of these things. And it's only, I think this week we were reminded of like how much I didn't appreciate the other things that was going on in these events, just people and how many talented people there were and still are, and how just interacting with these people should have been enough.
But I mean, it's the development of. I take it you was talking about Nick.
Yes.
Yeah. Francesca said that because we're just ringing around people, how for a while it was like a tight-knit group of people that we had, and she's correct, and you alluded to it when I messaged you as well, how you'd missed the old crowd, and whatever crowd you're in disappears really quickly, doesn't it?
And it's actually quite a short period of time.
Yes.
Probably. Everything kind of came in. There was that crowd, and I was going, why did I used to do that thing where, well, I have to drive, because I used to drive to Milton Keynes train station and then go from there to events quite often on the train, which meant I had to drive when I came back, which meant I didn't really see much value in staying for long for a drink after. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was a bit of an idiot. I should have been slightly more willing to involve myself.
Yeah, but you just, at the time, you do what suits you. I mean, that actually brings me back to pretty much what I was thinking. It is, with me doing the backwards and forwards to Harrogate, it was a similar thing. I've had 2 events there where I didn't even go for a drink with people. I just came home. So, and the second time I made money, but it seemed like a...
What?
Yeah, I know. But it's only because I didn't pay for a hotel. But it was a totally soulless experience in that way, because you just okay, I've gone and sold some comics and come home. And at my point in my life, going back to this, it's more important about meeting people, because fuck knows, when's the next time you're going to see them?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
But having said that, you might, if you did another event, you might well be mobbed by groups of people now.
I doubt it.
Now that you, I mean,
I think a lot happened the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you've gone through the gears, you have. I mean, it's like, I hate to say this because Chelsea's a dirty word for football now at the moment, but you pretty much achieved the same thing as Chelsea, which you've gone through every trophy in comics now.
But I don't know where there is to go apart from
that must be weird though. That must be totally weird after all this time. I mean, I was who was I talking to? I think it was just after it's done. It's going to get published by Drawn a Quarter, and I said it's because you kept going. That's the one thing out of most of the people I've met in this, is that you've never stopped.
I remember years ago when I worked in a comic shop, there was like a couple of people would come in and talk about this great graphic novel they had, which a single word never got written of it in the 4 years. And I remember going, I need to be the opposite of that. Right. I think it's all very well saying we're going to approach all these publishers. Right, what have you done? Got to do it. And also always remember, like small press comics in the 80s, where people were quite overly ambitious, and they'd do like one issue of a big long story thing that they planned to do, and then you never saw it in the second issue. And I always knew that if I did anything like that, I would deliver regardless. To be so bloody minded.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
That's what self-publishing is, isn't it? It's bloody mindedness.
Well, I mean, I was when I first encountered you, it would have been going to Caption, because I think my memory is, it comes and goes with details, so I just make it up most of the time. But it was
definitely you having a conversation on the way to one Caption.
Yeah, that's
Caption on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I remember that quite vividly.
Yeah, I think we might have even got the bus. I'm not sure, but at the time I just thought, oh fuck, I'm talking to Paul Rainey, because I knew your work, and it was just like you were kind of like, I think I made like 1 or 2 comics and that, and it was just so aware of your stuff. And it was just great. It was like hero worship. So there you go, Paul.
How odd. I feel the same about you. I'd seen your stuff and thought it was terrific.
I mean, I'll edit that bit out, by the way. I won't mention that again. I'm joking. No, it was because there's an awareness of here's somebody that's already got a body of work. And I mean, at that time, I'm talking about 2000 and probably 2, maybe 1, maybe, that you could count the people that you knew making these comics on both hands, more or less, and know everything that they're making, or be at least aware of them. It was such a smaller group of people, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was around the time that I'd been going to Caption since '92, the second year I think it was, '91 or '92. I mean, in the '90s I was going for one day, I think, every other year, and then around 2000, 2001, around that time, I just started going every year and doing both days, and that's when I realised that's when I was really enjoying Caption properly. I think, yeah, and that was a good few years.
Yeah.
I was thinking, my ambition was always to be like a guest at Caption.
Right.
And I've been going there since the second year, and the year that I was eventually a guest was the final year, when it was in the only year it wasn't in Oxford, it was in Coventry.
Oh gosh.
And I was going to be interviewed talking about There's No Time Like the Present, and it was the only event on against something else, and there were 3 people there. 2 of them were Jay and Selena, who were good old Jay and Selena.
Yeah, good for them.
And the third was a guy who clearly was just there reading a comic and wanted to leave, but suddenly realised he couldn't. He was trapped. Oh, Jesus. And that's kind of how I feel it all is. I eventually achieve these things, and it's never quite how things never are, but
no.
It's not quite how you imagine them to be. It's always slightly disappointing. But yeah, I've had a last couple of years. The Drawn and Quarterly thing is brilliant. It's really exciting. But it won't be out until the start of next year. I don't think. When they say winter 2023, that means the start of the year, not the end of the year.
Right.
I think. I hope.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah, that's a long wait then. Yeah.
But yes, that was terrific. I just sent it to them, and I got a response the next day.
Huh.
And it was basically they needed to shop it around, but my contact said no, I really like it. But it took them a long while to shop it around,
right? Because
the pandemic happened and it upsets things, doesn't it? The normal systems. But yeah, that was. I mean, you're probably like me, where you remember reading. I actually remember buying Drawn Quarterly. You know, and
yeah.
I've still got the first issues and covered somewhere. And Chester Brown and Joe Matt and stuff, and Seth. Going, wow.
Yeah.
And I messaged Darryl Cunningham. His books are being published over there by Drawn Quarterly.
Right.
I said, we can be the British Seth, Chester Brown and Joe Matt.
Yeah, I'm sure that went down well.
I think I wanted to be Joe Matt, which I think he found appalling.
With good reason.
Endorsements from John Ronson, and yet, and there seems to have been no middle ground.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So those big events we were talking about earlier, they were kind of a distraction. They weren't necessary for you and me. Do Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Get from where we were to where we are, and yes, I now that you're going back to, I'm sort of rattling on.
That's fine. Don't worry.
These bigger events have kind of proven themselves to be kind of. I don't really know what they are, but I don't know what they're representing really. And I'm including these sort of things that are called Comic Cons that have film stars and movie stars in, as well as those sort of more comic focused events. In that I don't know, but
they're like more pop culture events now. It's an all rounder event. But I think if I understand correctly, and I've never been to San Diego, but I mean that's just basically and stuff like that is just to sort of now just to promote lots of trailers for your upcoming kind of like Marvel Universe films and things. And I mean, even down to, again, I'm not railing against Thought Bubble. It just happened to be the most recent one, but that's going through a change as well, with Comixology being sort of like the backer now, and same with what happened with MCM being now part of Reed Pop, and you can see that it's just the a simulation of cultural events under.
I remember getting cross. I think it was. Oh no, it wasn't the M ones, but I think it was in the same location.
Right.
Itself, and I think they changed hands or whatever. This would be about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And you got one chair for the table, and it was £100. But you could get, if you wanted, you could share the table with someone else. You had to pay £20 if you wanted a second chair. And I was arguing the toss with them, saying, well, my mate's got a bad back. He's had a back operation. You're expecting him to pay £20. That's unfair. And I refused to do the event, not because I was bothered about it.
It was the 20 quid.
But because I the principle of paying £20 literally for a chair.
It's insane, isn't it?
And I think that kind of summed up a lot of the attitude of these events, where people who are like us, of which there are loads. You walk around Thought Bubble, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who are brilliant, who are making their own comics, to the point that it's overwhelming. And I'm not talking about Thought Bubble. Yeah. I'm making a generalisation when I say this. But these people are paying for those events by renting tables.
Yeah.
And often those people aren't treated particularly well.
No.
So that when it does happen, like for example, someone brings you a bottle of water.
Yeah.
You don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Even though technically you probably spent £80 on that.
Yeah, for that bottle.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And I sort of went, I'm kind of quite resentful of this. And it's kind of been nice to sort of feel I'm able to opt out. I'm going to be honest with you. I know I might regret saying this. I'm holding out to being invited as I don't know how to make the leap to the guest list. I don't know now what I need to do.
Sleep with somebody. I don't know.
I have a comic strip in the best-selling comic in Britain, as far as I'm aware. And have done for like a lot of issues over the last 8 years, and I still can't make the leap to the guest list, and I don't know how these other people manage it.
No, it's a.
And it seems to me that what I've done, the mistake I made was paying for tables for all those
years,
and help to supplement these events.
Yeah, they
now see me and people like me,
cash cow,
myself included, as people who fund their events, and they don't want to.
Yeah, that is.
But I don't for a moment think of myself as a Laura or Paul.
Yeah.
I don't. My view is when I see the guest list and I go, well, some of these people, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm better than them, but I am. Academically, surely I must be.
To it again, which is exactly what you've just said, and I've always kind of rattled on about it, about the fact that we are paying to an extent we're paying for these events and get very little for it. And again, when you see the prices of the tables, and then you look at all these, young people that are so excited, and so they should be, because they want to go to an event. And I think, look, don't do it. Don't do it, because for the amount of money you're going to shell out for those events, you could put one on yourself and have a good piss up at the end of it, and probably make more money, and probably get more people interested.
Go along as a punter. So I think a lot of the younger people as I said earlier, I think people go for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And there are probably a lot of people that don't go for the same reasons that I do, or I did, which is hoping to be, to make a contact when get that big, get discovered. Many people, I think, go because they just like hanging out with their friends, and they don't really care how much, if any, money they make. And so, therefore, for those people, it's perfectly fine, brilliant. But yeah, I mean, it makes more sense to go as a punter and just wander around, and if that's the reason why you're going, at least you get to kind of experience it better. Whereas, when you're behind a table, you have an obligation, you feel, to stay behind the table in case that one big spender comes along. Do you know what I mean?
That one big spender always came to the table next to me. It was always the way you just...
Well, you see the guy who does, the person who goes through every table and every self-publishing, everyone, you go, brilliant.
Here we go.
One thing, and they literally do an arc around your table.
It's so true. So many times. I mean, for this one, this thought bubble, like I say, I haven't applied for it, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up on the day, and I might not even go into the event. I might just go up on the day and meet people for a drink in the evening, get on the train and come home, and then that's it. And it's just like, for once, that actually seems like an appealing idea rather than just sitting there thinking, why has this person next to me built a wall out of something and nobody can see me?
Yes, yeah. It's other people, isn't it, round tables sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, to be fair, I've been pretty lucky over the years, but there have been one or two occasions. I remember Bristol, some people behind me had a huge over-the-top display. And I was at my table like this, and I literally I was a bit ratty.
Really? That doesn't surprise me.
It was fine when I said, can you move this forward? And it's like people who you kind of know they kind of want to do this. We have to sell it. So they like popcorns or something when they sell something. Or
do you actually have a table banner?
No, do you?
Do I fuck? No, I actually...
No, I don't at all. Everyone seems to have them. I've never had one in all the years I've done it.
I was the very last one at Crouch End. I was going to call it no banners or something, and then I realised that most people had got one, and I was appalled. It was just like, and I was just going to say, no, you can't bring a table banner. It's a fucking, it's like in a tiny hall, but that really signalled that the game was up for me when suddenly it's like heraldic banners appear behind people's tables, and then I can understand why, because then you end up blocked in behind a display and no one knows that you're there. But who cares?
But even this sort of so someone says to me, if you get one, then people know how to find you in the hall and blah blah blah. I'm going, I'm a bald bloke. Do you know what I mean? Like, really? I think no one's really that desperate to find me. In fact, it's better that they don't know. They stumble across me and I can then just pounce. So, you know what I mean?
But it's just slightly going back to, it's one of the things that over the years has been kind of diminishing as well, is the more and more people that you've known have stopped going to events as well. And I think that has hastened my decision not to be involved so much, because you just miss them. And I mean, you make more friends and that, but it never really kind of feels the same after a while. I think maybe I'm sort of just like thinking about it in rosy kind of terms, but yeah, you kind of do miss wandering around seeing the same old faces after a while, because they've either give up or retired or just got got better things to do with their time on a weekend. Anyway, so you in quick succession you had two things that the Observer thing's the same. How many times did you have a go with that?
I think that was the 11th, 12th.
That's just mental.
And friends will tell you that my mood every year because you don't get an email telling you, unfortunately, thank you for your submission, but unfortunately you haven't won this year. You know, you just find out because it's been announced in the Observer, which, you know, and that's it. Typically, in my experience, and I'd have the worst moods, for weeks and weeks, and I'd go, I'm never entering it again, and then it peaks around again, and I'd go, well, maybe I will, and I'd have all these theories as to why I'd never won, and then, but I think I felt was going to win with that one.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then I say that about previous ones now.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. But it was really, it was really, everyone's impressed.
Yeah.
Normal people are impressed.
Yeah, because it's a recognisable thing. It's not like, people know what the Observer is, unless you're a kind of Daily Mail reader.
I think even they know it exists.
I know. I was
not impressed by it.
Trying to be a bit playful, but everyone recognises it, and it's good. It's kudos to you type thing, and I'm sure now with the vast wealth that it's generated.
Yeah.
I mean,
have you entered? Do you enter, or have you entered?
I entered it once, and there's two things I really hate doing. One is say if it's just for exhibitions, I hate paying for a fee for an exhibition, and the other thing is I don't really like entering competitions. So I can't remember. Do you have to pay an entry fee for the?
No, that one is free.
Okay, so yeah.
But the Myriad, I was like that. The Myriad first graphic novel.
Oh yes.
Had a fee.
That's right. I entered that once. Yes. So I don't like paying fees for stuff. So not because I'm tight. I just have a aversion to it.
No, I have that. Well, I am tight, but I also have that. You know.
You bought me a drink once, Paul. I'm sure you have.
I probably expected it back.
I've still got a note of it somewhere in a sketchbook, don't I?
That's why you remember me buying you a drink.
Yeah.
You were surprised.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Don't worry. You'll get back. You'll get it back one day.
You're being treated like they talk to you like you're an adult as well, and that you are important.
That's always nice. I mean,
that's a very weird thing.
That is, this is this came up again in conversation, which is the rare times that I've actually interfaced with genuine kind of like professionals. It's just like, oh my God, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
It is such a complete contrast. And it's very fleeting as well. It's just like, oh, okay, we're back to this.
It's gone. Yes,
it's gone.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh, this must be what it's like on a regular basis for people. And it's just like, oh, I wouldn't mind a bit of that, occasionally.
Yeah. My only regret was they sent a photographer around for the article to my house. And she said to me, can you take your glasses off? Because there's always glare. And I should have insisted on keeping my glasses.
Right, yeah.
So regret it.
Because you couldn't see anything.
Well, it's not. It's just I have my glasses. I've worn them since I was 5.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd let the glasses wearers down by.
Yeah.
If you'd have said, "Can you put this wig on as well?" That's all we needed. So.
I mean, if someone I don't know what your eyesight's like, but mine's got to the point now. If someone said, "Oh, take your glasses off," I wouldn't have a fucking clue where they are.
Yeah. My house was empty after when I put them back on at the end.
Oh God. Oh dear. But going back to just very briefly about meeting you first, even at that point because you'd be working on No Time Like the Present then, because I think I'd got a couple of issues of it at that point, which is helpful because then I knew what your work was about. But you'd got such a body of, because you'd been going to that point at least, what would you say? That'd be about 8 years, 10 years? Am I?
Yeah, I did Memory Man in the 90s and Love Bomb in the 90s. And I had a little break because I had my first crisis of self-publisher's crisis.
Oh God, yeah.
At the end of the 90s.
I know that sort of thing, yeah. But yeah.
I was slightly overly ambitious, I think, with those comics, and then came back and did photocopy stuff for the first time since school or sixth form, really, or fanzine days, best in the 80s. And that was really brilliant, because yes, your expectations are completely different, and you find ways of making your things stand out, like just putting it, because in colour photocopies were expensive even in the early 2000s, so just I remember getting just like a couple of sheets of colour and then cutting the bits out and sticking that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it made it distinctive, and I was really surprised that people responded to that.
Oh God. That sounds, because again, that's like reading about Eddie Campbell using highlighter pens for his covers of his comics and stuff. So.
I haven't got any Eddie Campbell stuff, but I've got stuff from that period in which I think Ilya slashed the cover of one of his Skidmark comics with a razor blade, so it has a big cut in it on the arms, which totally works.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'll try that. And then subsequent to that sort of thing, whenever I'd go to Gosh, and because as you remember what the Gosh self-published shelf was like in the basement, whenever I'd take anything down there, you're basically taking over the whole shelf. It was just
it's embarrassing now. No, it's the opposite.
And it was just like,
I long for those days again.
It was just like, hold on a minute. It's like, it's the Paul Rainey shelf, and it's like.
It did get to the point where even I was going, this is getting a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because I would keep all of There's No Time at Present in print. So I've got a new issue out, issue 8. Oh, brilliant, we'll have X amount of those. And I've still got all the. Well, you need to have the earlier issues in so that one will shift. And but they sold them. They weren't not selling.
No.
But yes, I can see how they went. We can't take your comic because for the Paul stuff.
Yeah.
But my interactions with Gosh at that time was that they took people's stuff. They didn't. Say no, thank you.
Yeah.
I think their problem then was they had a seller return policy, and people weren't coming back and collecting their unsold comics, and they didn't know what to do with them.
No.
Yes, but that was a.
I love that little shelf.
I remember going into Gosh for years and years. By that point, must have been at least 10 years ago, because I knew people who got their comics in there, and I said, "How did you get your comics in here? I can't get my stuff in there." But I didn't think that all I needed to do was ask. I was too embarrassed.
Yeah, it's
expecting some miraculous process where they sort you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've been called. Your name has arrived. It's we'll ring you up and you can come in and bring your comics.
Well, that's how it works.
But that makes a very good point about a lot of all this, which is that there's the only way that anything ever moved for you was just to open your mouth, really, but there's always these perceptions about, not that stuff was closed to you, but there was a more kind of challenging route to achieving stuff, and it wasn't. It was just like you make the shit and then you go and you force it on people. But it's also the people that you think you're forcing it on aren't necessarily the people that you should be forcing your stuff on. And you had that with the London Underground comics, where I went, brilliant. That's the absolutely the right attitude of trying to get stuff out to people who kind of probably remember comics from their youth, or haven't thought about comics for a while, or have never thought about comics, and suddenly they're seeing this stuff and theoretically getting excited or expressing an interest in it. And it doesn't matter if 500 people walk by you and ignore your table or space in those circumstances, because you understand that you're taking something to a world that doesn't realise it needs it. Yeah. It's when you do that at a comic event, you've got 500 people and they're supposed to be there and interested, and they're not. That's when it's demoralising. But I've always wanted to make comics that's appealing to I guess everyday people. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
and yes, and thinking too much about what other people are doing around you doesn't really suit that. And it's kind of, I'm in a good place, aren't I, really? Because I've had, a little bit of attention the last couple of years, but it doesn't, that hasn't proven me right necessarily. I've just had a bit of attention, but I'm hoping, that works out in the end for me, because I don't think it suits to think about who your audience is if it's not everybody.
No.
Comics used to be widely read by everybody. They're in newspapers, they're everywhere. And, maybe as creators we need to think in terms of appealing to everybody.
Yeah,
that means being confident in your own voice and what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, where do you sit in the hierarchy of these things, despite my grievances about not getting onto the guest list at events.
We're going to have to get you on a guest list.
Contradicting myself.
Maybe we're going to have to start a campaign to get you on a guest list. But I think what you say is correct, and I'm not talking about my own work, but people say, oh, you've got a lot of variety in the stuff you do. Maybe, but equally, I do firmly believe in making your own stuff rather than exactly what you've just said, which is trying to find a market or trying to make work for a specific thing. I mean, that's fine. Sometimes that's necessary for particular reasons. I just don't really have the will or the initiative to do it, but people do successfully. I mean, for instance, you have various, like with Viz, that's different to doing other work. So you have the ability to change the areas that you're targeting with your stuff.
But I think with my stuff in Viz is my voice. I don't feel that my stuff is...
No.
I like Viz, so it doesn't feel like I have to work harder. In fact, the stuff that they reject tends to be the stuff that I'm overly mindful of.
Right.
Being directed at Viz. They seem to respond much better when I'm happier with the voice I have that I'm using. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
So, yeah.
Have you had stuff in Private Eye?
No, I can't get in there.
No.
Have you?
No, I've never even tried. I've
sent so much stuff to them over the years.
Right.
It's that I actually went through a perverted phase of about a year.
Right, just sending them.
I did a comic strip where I took the piss out of Ian Hislop. About 8 years ago. That's in Pope Francis Goes to the Dentist, and it was him. I was kind of quite angry. I was angrier then than I am these days. I've gone off. Have I got news for you?
Yeah.
And then the terrorist attacks in France, and I was watching that, and he was talking about how he was on that show afterwards, talking about I'm sorry, I'm going to be totally paraphrasing. I can't remember, but the attitude seemed to be, we need to have a sense of humour in these situations, not to find you laugh at the situation, but this show must go on type of attitude. I just remember thinking, yeah, but they cancelled Jekyll and Hyde on ITV because it had a character with a gun in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was enough for them to kind of cancel that week's episode, and yet, you're a comedy show that has to deal with this awful event. I'm not saying they should have cancelled it, but they kind of and so I did a little strip that kind of vented my annoyance about the hypocrisy I felt was going on there.
Yeah. And
I dream I felt quite well. And I always go, I wonder if that's why I've never got it. Maybe he did see that. Maybe, I'm sure he hasn't. I'm sure it's genuinely down to my cartoons.
It's absolutely the reason. Yeah, you're probably on some sort of they probably have a cork board and your name's pinned to it. Never fucking.
I would love that though, if it were.
Yeah, never give this fucker a job.
But I haven't done it for for ages and ages. I don't think I'm well inclined that way. I don't think I'm particularly good at it. And also, I hate puns.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of single-panelled. I do use puns, but in the main, I don't like them. And I do notice that a lot of single-panelled type of cartoon strips are very pun-reliant, which, you know, I don't have a real inclination towards.
No. Usually. Well, that's the thing why I can't really... I've never really considered it. I don't really have a sense of humour when it comes to doing stuff. I mean, I just aren't very funny. And I took great offence at it actually once. I can't remember who it was, but they said to me, yeah, your stuff doesn't have any comedy or any humour in it. And I said, well, it does. It's just dark humour in the sense that...
I think your stuff is funny. But it is, as you say, it's very...
Yeah, it's very low humour.
Under the surface.
Yeah.
It's not, but it's definitely present.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm built for kind of like actually, like you say, either gag stuff or punning or even, sequential humour. It's just like, no.
Yeah.
It's that would mean I'd have to have a kind of sense of humour generally. It's difficult.
That's a sense of humour, I think.
Yeah, but it's difficult. I mean,
just because you reflect upon stuff, I think it requires you to have a sense of humour. You're reflecting on things in a serious... It's not serious quite so much as whimsical. I don't know, so I don't want to start...
No, don't worry about it. But it's just, it is that thing where you think of the areas of, as you spoke about earlier, there are many areas to explore with comics and cartoon, and there's no reason why you should restrict yourself, but when you start thinking in terms of how to apply yourself to something, you think, like for instance, say superhero for an example, that hoary old chestnut. With a few things I've brushed across it very lightly with, say, like Necessary Monsters, but I now couldn't imagine even trying to draw something like that. I'm so used to now just having my own way with what I do. The idea of
you could do a Captain Britain story, but it'd have to be about Captain Britain packing up and moving out of London to Hull. And no superpowers.
Yeah, nothing whatsoever. Yeah.
Just moves to Hull.
Yeah.
Says goodbye to all of his friends.
Yeah. So applying it that way.
A reflective strip about the feelings that raises.
But it is interesting that to me that when you were talking about early ambition, and if any of us have a very good memory, there's always these. I mean, for me, initially it was returning to reading comics, not returning to reading comics, but reading comics more regularly at the age of 35 in the sense of wanting to make them, and then thinking how the comics I'm reading reflect what I want to do. And there was still this ambition, I'll get into comics, I'll be a comic artist, I'm going to do a monthly strip and all that, monthly comic and that. And then reality hits when, how do you draw a monthly comic? How do you draw a comic? And then that type of thing. So those kind of ambitions quickly had to, diversify, I think. It is fucking difficult. And the disappointment that goes into that straight away, which is that, you're looking at the stuff that you actually really like, and you quickly realise that you don't have you have abilities, but those abilities won't be going in that direction. Yeah. And it's like, you can either make the mental adjustment very quickly, which is, I fucking love this stuff, I'll just find a way of continuing it. Or it's just like, nah, it's not for me, fuck it. And thankfully it was the former.
Yeah, I used to have, I still wouldn't mind a regular paying gig, I suppose. But as you get older, I mean, it's different, isn't it? If you're 30 and they say, do you want to draw Hellblazer? You might go, okay, that's a regular income. Brilliant. I don't have to work in an office for any more. And then you might go 10 years later, well, I'd like to try something else. And you might end up in the same place that you are now creatively. But at least you've been doing comics together. yeah, but if I were to get offered something like that now, at my age, you go, well, that's a commitment, isn't it? That's a few years of my life where I'm not doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it switches from an ambition to a kind of pragmatic thing, which is, pragmatically, I want to express my creative self rather than think of myself. I mean, you get commercial. I mean, I don't know. I've had a couple of commercial type offers recently, which are pretty good. Which,
cool.
Not comic stuff, like illustration work.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's along the lines. But they'll be fleeting bits. They're not long term commitments. But I do daydream about what I would do if I was writing and drawing the Incredible Hulk. You know.
Well, yeah, of course. It doesn't mean that you.
How I'd reboot the Black Knight if I got my way. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that never goes away, does it? What would I do with
I'd
this
have to
shit?
be absolutely in charge, though, like you say.
Yeah.
If they say, oh, no, we're doing a crossover, so you have to do 3 crossover issues, I go, oh, I'm out of here. I can't be bothered with that. Or the editor says, can you change these 2 pages? Oh, forget it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Fuck off. Yeah, fuck off. It's my property.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is that. It's just interesting. I think I've been saying it's interesting a lot. I have these catchphrases that obviously I've got to grow out of. But it's that point at which you can do as much of your own stuff that time and money will allow, and it's always getting into that position that it changes the shape of what you're making, and that's one of the things about the past 3 years that I've been here, because I've been sucking on the teat of Arts Council money to make books and stuff. It's allowed me an enormous amount of freedom, far too much, because I've dicked around with all sorts of stuff. But in the process of doing that, it's probably been the most rewarding couple of years that I've had, because it's just like, I really don't like being told what to do. I guess I'm come to terms with that fact, and not being told what to do is awesome. And
That's the agreement. When I've worked in proper jobs all my adult life, and then I got a job at Network Rail about 3 years ago, just under 3 years ago, and it's probably the best place I've worked, but I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Everyone was lovely. My boss was 24, and you know, I that wasn't an issue, but it indicated to me that I haven't really moved anywhere. So I had my notice in after 6 months. I went, I'm going to focus on just doing comics. And I think how I saw you managing yourself was informative, part of the mix.
oh, sorry about that, Paul.
I'm not blaming you. But,
I'll have a whip round later.
There are other things that are part of the mix.
Yeah.
And and I went, well, what I'm going to do is give it a year, and then I can manage a year, and then after a year, I'll have to start looking for work. After the first year, I'm going, it looks like I'm going to have to find work. And then I won the fucking Observer graphic short story prize. And that changed everything. So I went, oh, this is an opportunity, but I don't know what that means. And I still don't know what that means. It's meant really nothing, you know.
Yeah.
When I spoke to Dark Horse, I went, I suppose the graphic short story prize must mean something. And I don't think it really did to them. Do you know what I mean? It's not to diminish the prize, but it's I'm telling you as a kind of difference between one's perception of what something is and the reality of that thing once you get there. But it did mean that I went, well, I can't go back to work because whatever this opportunity means, I'd be foolish to be in a day job and not trying to make something of this, whatever this thing may be. Yes, so I've not had a day job for probably 2.5 years.
Congratulations.
2.5 years. And unlike you, I can't bear being told what to do. And I remember, prior to Network Rail, other jobs, just the idiots, the fucking idiots. It's just that people get promoted to positions and they overcompensate because they know they're not qualified for those roles. Yeah. And the people underneath them, usually me, gets the grief.
It's so true.
And I've not been able to keep my mouth shut since the end of, since my mid-30s, really. It just gets me into trouble. So, but you see, if you've read my comics, you know there's loads of office scenes in them.
Yeah.
People being miserable in offices.
Yeah.
And other people around them being idiots.
It's all so true. It really is. And it's being fortunate enough to be in the position to at least make that decision and for it to last whatever period of time it is. It's golden after so many years. And I every day just say to myself how fortunate I am. And I am fucking fortunate to be indulging myself. And I never forget how fortunate I am, because you never forget. And I mean, it's all relative. I mean, when you're an adult, you realise what privilege is, and privilege comes in many different shapes and forms. And even at the worst, most darkest times of my life, and there have been some, it still means I'm privileged because of certain factors. And it's only maturity that makes you realise that. And I live a privileged life, and I fucking enjoy it, and that's all I can say about it, really. And you
I'm very fortunate that I can do this. I couldn't have done it 20 years ago. I'd have had to work in the day job and stayed there. Is it because of other factors that I'm able to do this? I don't have any income stream. I'm not rich. I'm not.
No.
I'm not gonna. I don't have to worry for a little while.
No. But we still have until events take over. We still have running water and sort of light and sometimes heating.
Well, this is why I did it. Like, another motivation was, I don't think the world's going to be around for much longer. So,
it's a good motivation.
Why not do it?
It's a good.
I'll be laughing once I've reached the point where I have to find a job, and then the world ends.
Yeah,
that's perfect. I've timed it perfectly.
That's absolutely it. Fuck yeah! I think, my God, we've been talking for what time is it? An hour. Oh, that's not bad going. So look.
I didn't moan for an hour, did
I? No. Just.
Moaning about events.
No, I'll tell you what.
I'm talking to Sean. That's what we do. Moan about.
Yeah, no, I see. Yeah, I'd be very disappointed if you hadn't actually.
I'm glad I delivered.
So I'm just gonna stop this now and then just have a quick chat to you, just a very quick chat, because this is just gonna. I think it's going to take me ages to edit this, so I'm just going to do a thing of just saying very quickly, oh, thank you very much for that, Paul, it's been a blast, all that sort of shit, and I'll do the usual things of, I'll add a link, and the usual thing. And
can I mention my new comic?
Oh, please, Paul, go on, yeah, if you want to, yeah, absolutely, come on, you can't miss a...
I can be as clunky as you like, don't worry about it.
Oh, no, go for it, it's all right, just feel free.